nobody wants to trivialize the experience that some people have had with COVID, but a lot of people feel like we're not moving forward. Do you get the same feeling?
Yes, but it's a very difficult problem. Most governments throughout the world are struggling with it, and there are no easy answers. But the Marxists weaponized COVID. It wasn't treated just as a pandemic, and now it's coming back to bite them. With his close personal and financial ties to China, I see Biden as president unsuited for office, unconstitutional, unethical, untruthful, and unsympathetic to the millions of American people who he's screwing over which way and none, including over COVID in these mandates. I think it's unsympathetic to people. And the person you've just heard, that congressman, I thought exhibited how people actually feel who've been affected by it.
Well, let's talk about the response on the other side of the pond. Boris Johnson had this message about Christmas. Take a listen.
But I also recognise that people have been waiting to hear whether their Christmas plans, your Christmas plans, are going to be affected. So what I can say tonight is that naturally we can't rule out any further measures after Christmas. But in view of the continuing uncertainty about several things, we don't think today that there is enough evidence to justify any tougher measures before Christmas.
John, how does the European response stack up in all of this?
Well, I don't know about Europe, but Britain, which is now outside the European Union, has the same threat as America, but potentially worse, because we're much more highly or densely packed, 60 million people into an area about the size of New England, and proportionately much more tourism and traffic going through the country, bringing various diseases from all over the world. But I think the key difference in Boris's tone was one of not liking these mandates, thanks to the 100 or so conservative rebels who threatened him last week because of the mandates and lockdowns and uneconomic things like this, which were not really having a big effect. So I think he's erring on the side of caution rather than mandates and presidential tough action.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and that would leave the individual to make a decision as to what he or she would like to do. Is that something you support?
Exactly. That's conservative. That's Republican, and not Marxist,
right,
where the government controls everything.
Yeah, and that's what we're going through right now. I feel like they don't get that. And part of that is Washington isn't run like the rest of the country. I mean, you have states that are quite independent. I've mentioned Texas before. Their legislature only meets every other year. And the attitude is keep the government out of our business. We'll solve our own problems. But you have Washington, a lot of these career people like Nancy Pelosi and President Biden, they feel like it's their job to solve everybody's problem.
Bob, you're absolutely right. Take, for example, Switzerland. Switzerland's parliament meets about a week out of every 2 months, and it's to take government out. That's a great question. The government makes no profit. They're a complete drag of overhead on the population, and they pay more and more taxes. And the problem has arisen, in my view, because of career politicians. People used to go into politics as a calling, but now it pays a fortune. And people like Nancy Pelosi started with a few 100,000, now worth several 100 million. One wonders where the money comes from. And cozy existence and having multi-terms. I think there should be single terms and at the most double terms for all politicians. But unfortunately, turkeys that we're about to eat for Christmas don't vote for an early Christmas.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much, John Browne. Good to see you, sir.
And a Happy New Year to you and to all your wonderful readers. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And you're part of that. So thank you so much for being with us, John Browne, and Merry Christmas.